Well, some of the most common ones, which I actually shared prior to having urban hens, were smell, noise, and predators. So it turns out for us, in our situation, we lived a half a block off of a county park where we had mountain lions, hawks, coyotes, raccoons, everything. I was very worried about predators there. And we didn't draw in any predators, we had none. And by the end of it, several of our neighbors had chickens and we didn't have an increase in predators. And also, cities around the nation, as we've called the humane societies and talked to different animal groups, there hasn't been a notable increase in predators in the city because of urban hens. They're already in the city, you know. If they're around, they're coming for the dog and the cat and the raccoons that are there and the wild turkeys and all of that. So it doesn't cause an increase. And so that is pretty much already addressed. Now with smell is a huge concern. I mean, if you sniff around, neighbors' dogs stink really bad. Now chickens, if you have 5 chickens, they've measured it and done studies, 5 chickens create less poop and less stinky waste than 1 medium-sized dog. And most people don't have 1 dog, they have 2 or 3 and a couple of cats and maybe some bunnies, things like that. So smell, you know, anything that poops, the poop smells. But if you clean it, it doesn't smell. And people who have urban hens are doing it for health. You know, they're doing it for pets, and so they tend to care for them. And they have a different method of taking care of their chickens than people in the country. You know, in the country they have large numbers of chickens and they often don't clean the coop for, I've asked around and some people say never, some people say once a season, and some people say 3 times a year, which is almost once a season. You know, so, but that's very different than if you're every day out there chit-chatting with your chickens and picking the eggs out of the nest and everything. You're not going to have a stinky coop. Most people who have chickens are very conscientious, good neighbors, and so they don't want to live in the stink and they're not going to allow it to be stinky. Now the ordinance addresses that, and it addresses it in a couple of good ways. One is that whatever we propose, that the pet dwelling, like the chicken coop, be at least 20 feet from the neighbor's house, so that would allow the breeze and the wind and this beautiful breeze we have today just whiff anything away that would be there. And then we also have down on the bottom that you're required to maintain a ventilated coop, and you're required to keep it from not allow it to stink. Now when we had one, we cleaned our coop about once a week to once every other week, and that seemed to do very well. In fact, I think it was overkill. I was a little bit overly conscientious, but we didn't have any problems with that. In fact, our children, we had dogs, cats, and bunnies, and we would ask them, do you want to do dog poop, kitty litter, you know, or the bunny hutch? And they'd all say, or the chicken coop. They'd be chicken coop! Now, you know, kids always default to the easiest job and the quickest, the easiest, the least gross job in the house. So if the kids are picking the chicken coop, I would say that's a pretty darn good testimony as to how stinky and rotten they are, and how easy they are to take care of. And a really, what was the other one? So stink, predators, and noise. Now noise, it was so wonderful to find out, and I didn't realize this before I had them, that at night the chickens walk themselves sweetly up and roost in their coop. Because I had visions of being the chicken lady on TV, oh here chicks, come back chicks, you know, and go into your coop at night, and they do it all by themselves, and then they sleep perfectly quiet all night. Now in the day you'll hear this click, 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 or you might hear, but it's never, it's not cock-a-doodle-doo, it's not anything loud, and it's way quieter than small dogs, medium dogs, any dog size. A chicken is way more quiet. And the sound is pleasant. There's nothing grating or annoying to that sound either. And I was worried about it because I didn't know. I grew up in the city and I didn't have chickens. And nobody complained, and we had, like I said before, an extremely diverse neighborhood. And plus, when things are 20 feet away from your house and you hear this low volume cluck, I guess they've measured it and it's about the same volume as human conversation. So if your neighbors are talking and your chickens are talking, it's about the same.